Hi there, it's Nicole here today from Mama Elephant with this card featuring a bunch of bunnies. This is the Hippity Hop stamp set and coordinating dies. Another fabulous, adorable bunny stamp set from Mama Elephant that works for so many different occasions. There's lots of greetings in this stamp set, so you can customize that cute little banner or use other greetings that you might already have in your stash with these wonderful little bunny images. And what I love is there's tons of them in this stamp set, and if you have some of the stamp sets that have been released in the past couple months, you can mix and match some of those bunnies in with these as well if you want to really create some fantastic scenes. We're going to start with a piece of smooth white cardstock trimmed down to 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches and apply a little Salty Ocean Distress Oxide ink to this cardstock. As I've mentioned before in other videos, I love Distress Oxide inks to use on regular smooth white Neenah cardstock. This is the 110-pound weight cardstock because they're going to apply really beautifully even on regular cardstock. If you are using regular distress inks, I would recommend using a watercolor cardstock or Bristol Smooth cardstock for that same effect. From another piece of 4 inch by 5 1/4 inch cardstock, I have used the Mama Elephant GRASSY Trio dies to die cut some grass borders, and I'm applying Lucky Clover Distress Oxide ink mostly to that grassy edge. We're going to be layering these along the bottom edge of the card to build the scene. Very, very simple, quick and easy background scene building here, but very effective. When I looked at the Hippity Hop bunny images, I wanted to find a way to add lots of them to my card, but still ground them into the scene, if that makes sense. And the best way I thought of doing that for this particular card was to have some borders of grass that I could tuck these cute little guys in, have some of them peeking out, have some of them in front, some behind. It really helps just build this scene of this little grassy area with all of these little bunnies. In fact, we're going to be using, I believe, 8 of the bunnies. There's 9 in this set, so I'm only not using one of the large bunnies. Everything else is being utilized here. I originally, I think, only stamped, I want to say 7, and I think I pulled one more out because as I started putting them together, I really felt like I needed one more. I am using some black ink for Copic coloring, stamping these images on smooth white cardstock, and then we will color them in with some Copic markers. To keep this really consistent and very easy, this is one of those cards that has quite a bit of coloring on it and inking and things, but came together really fast. Less than an hour. I know I've had quite a few of you been asking how long it takes to make certain cards, and when I know for sure, because sometimes I leave and come back and it's really hard to gauge, but when I create a card from start to finish, I've been trying to include that so you guys have a good idea. This was like 45 minutes to an hour, really, really quick. Part of that is not a lot of change of different colors. We're going to stay with the same color scheme for all of the bunnies, which is E40, 43, and 44 with a little R20 for the insides of the ears and the cheeks. Only laying down a tiny bit of E44 and then blending that out with E43 and really blending that out with E40. The first bunny, I started with the largest one. That's the one where I kind of played around with my color combination. And I knew I was going to do them all the same, but I wanted to just kind of make sure that I liked this before committing to it to all of the bunnies. I will only share coloring of a couple of them since they're all the same. The little bunny tail, I'm going to color slightly different than the rest of the bunny, and that's just laying down a very little bit of E40 and then dotting in E43 to give it a little bit more color. I wanted the bunny tails to stay a little bit lighter then the rest of the bunny. And then when we're done, we're going to add some finishing details, which we'll talk about kind of near the end of the video, and things you can do to really dress up a more simply designed card. Here is that R00. This is my favorite for adding a soft, subtle pink to insides of ears and cheeks. And then I even went back and pulled in more E44. I really played with my large bunny quite a bit, trying to get that color combination just the way I wanted it. And part of this ended up being covered up because I'm layering one little bunny in front of the large one, but that's okay. At the time, you're not always maybe quite sure how much of an image is going to show. I've got another bunny that's tucked underneath one of the grass borders and just his head's popped up. So I wouldn't have had to color the whole thing. But it's one of those things where when I get started, I'm not always exactly sure where the image is going to go, so I color the whole thing. So let's color one more bunny before we move on to the banner. Laying down E40, we're going to just pull in just a tiny bit of E44 to the darkest areas. Blend out with a little E43. Very, very soft. Just blends out and kind of removes some of those harsh lines from E44, and then back with E40 to blend it out, keeping the tummy of the bunny nice and white. E40, pardon me, has a lot of colorless blender in it, so it will bleed a tiny bit. So kind of make sure and let the ink absorb and dry into the paper. It is pretty fast. These are alcohol ink markers, but that will help with any bleeding issues and oversaturating the paper. For the banner, I am using another favorite color combination. You've probably seen me use it a lot, especially here as spring. It's more springtime. This is a peachy pink color combination I love that is R00, 11, and 32. Sometimes I use R000 just depending on what I'm doing. I already had R00 out, so I'm going to use that. R32 is mostly just used in the darkest areas. And then R11 is going to pull that color out a little bit more, and R00 will blend it all out. I love this color combination. It's a really pretty peachy pink that isn't necessarily orange. It's not necessarily pink, but it's a nice combination of the two, and I really love this color combination. Once I have this blended out the way I want it to look, we'll finish coloring the rest of the bunnies and then die cut everything with the Hippity Hop coordinating dies. The one bunny that I didn't share coloring that I added later is the bunny holding the flower, and that bunny's going to be the flower is going to be colored with the same markers I just used for the banner. Let's go ahead and add those grass borders to the bottom of our background. We've got 3 of them here. This is going to give me a really great, lots of area to tuck these guys in. Now up at the top of the card, this is where more of the white space is on the design. However, we've got our bunnies kind of framing it up with that banner held between them. And to get the spacing right, before I adhere anything with adhesive, I want to lay it all out because I want my banner pretty well centered up here at the top. And then I can kind of tuck the rest of my bunnies in and around. This is where you get a really good idea if you need additional images, if you want to add something else. Before you commit to actually gluing anything down, it's always a good idea to just kind of double check. This is where I realized I'd really like to have one more bunny and that it would kind of round out the whole design. It's where a happy accident, I accidentally bumped that bunny down below the blades of grass where just his head is peeking out. I wasn't originally going to do that, but I thought it was so cute that I went ahead and left that there. And this gets your placement just right for which direction the bunnies are going, so it really looks nice. I'm going to use some glue dots, a tape runner for the larger bunnies to adhere everything. We're just going to start adhering them all down, and then we'll go back and add anything extra and add the finishing details. Originally, I started with this little bunny hopping kind of closer to the left side of the card. I will end up moving him. Gonna have to be a little bit careful about that, but I do want to move him over just a little bit. With the bunnies and the banner, we want to start with the banner so we get it centered. The largest bunny is going to be hanging off the side of the card just a tiny bit. That is okay. That's going to kind of help ground everything. I'm a big fan of, when creating a scene like this, to have something kind of off of the edge that you need to trim off, instead of having everything just kind of feel like it's out in the middle, floating out in space. Grounding things by tucking behind blades of grass, by trimming off excess, helps ground the image so that it appears to be more of a snapshot of a scene instead of things just floating out in space. So here are my little bunnies, the little one's helping the big one hold up that side of the banner. I'm just going to flip this over and trim off that excess like I was just talking about. And then go ahead and add an additional bunny. Now we're going to go in with a black pen and add detail to noses and eyes where needed, and take a white pen and add some highlights to all of the bunnies, to the banner, to the little tails, add some little white dots, to the cheeks, add some little white dots. I think, especially for a simpler design, this adds so much to these cute little critters. We just want to add nice little highlights kind of everywhere. I even added them to the ears. They're a little bit harder to see, I think, in video, but they add a really fun touch. Following the lines of the banner, I like to just do a little bit. We're going to do that on both sides, kind of along the bottom and the top, and even down the sides a little bit in a couple areas. And once we have those highlights down where we want them to go, there are some hearts in the Hippity Hop stamp set that I want to add to that top portion of the card. This is where a lot of, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, the white space is on the card. There's not a lot going on in that upper third. And these hearts are going to kind of just round it all out, add a fun little decorative touch to the top of the card, but won't overwhelm the design. A lot of times I love adding little red hearts to projects. It's just something that, for whatever reason, I like on my cards. And so we're going to start, I started with just this trio over here on the right side, and I ended up going back in here in a little bit and adding two more on the other side. I kind of tend to like odd numbers in my accents. And I'm stamped those directly on the background over the Distress Oxide ink. There are not coordinating dies for this, but it really is very easy to color right over those with your Copic markers, and you still get amazing red hearts. Let's add this to our top fold card base before we add the glossy accents. Glossy accents is one of my other favorite things to do because it instantly makes those red hearts glossy and shiny and gives them a little bit of that raised finish when you're all said and done. The last thing I'm going to do is add some extra blades of grass with some green Copic markers. This is just going to add to the design and feel of the card. Again, another very easy, simple thing you can do to dress up a simply designed card. So I'm starting with G02 and then going over that with G17. And then even along that bottom edge where the bunnies are sitting and not tucked behind grass, I'm going to take G02 and G00 and make some shadows and kind of blend that out. So it helps ground those bunnies. Since they are not tucked behind anything, those shadows really help with that. And these colors of Copic markers blend really well with the Lucky Clover Distress Oxide ink. So just some really quick and easy coloring here. And at this point, the card is pretty much done. Let's add that glossy accents now that I'm done coloring. I try to always do this last so that I don't accidentally get my hand in it because I've been known to do that before. I do use a fine tip applicator for my glossy accents. It helps when applying glossy accents to small areas like these little hearts. And I forgot to do the little white dots on the bunny tails, so that's what I'm going in and doing now. And that is going to finish up this congratulations card design using the Mama Elephant Hippity Hop stamps and coordinating dies. Thanks for joining me today for this congratulations card featuring Mama Elephant stamps and dies. The supplies I used to create my card are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here are a couple more cards featuring Mama Elephant that you might be interested in. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.